Man, every single time I think I'm getting some color in my face, I go outside enough, I turn this camera on, and it just reminds me that I'm still just a pale guy, I guess, at the end of the day. So Haven is an old map. It's not a new one by any stretch of the imagination. It's not even new back into the competitive map rotation in the same way that Bind is. And so because of that, it is more or less considered figured out by a lot of teams, by a lot of players, and you can see this by how set in stone the agent composition meta is. If you look at the composition stats or the pick rate of specific agent compositions, as far as the Spike has been able to track, the standard, at least current meta composition of Omen, Sova, Jet, Killjoy, and Breach accounts for 54.13% of all agent compositions picked, which is a massive number, absolutely insane number. And then if you add the next one, which just has Astra instead of Omen, which is not an uncommon thing for us to see, that's 14.23% on its own. So that's close to 70% already there, agent composition. So needless to say, the agent composition is fairly set in stone. And if you want to go and scroll down the rest, you'd see one agent swapped out. Like the next one at 3.85% is Cypher instead of Killjoy. You have to scroll down really far, if at all, to see more than two agents changed. And because I don't exactly know what events the Spike is tracking, but I imagine my best guess is that a number of these are for events that are in the tier 2, tier 3, potentially even collegiate and high school circuits. And so because of the lower level of competition, it means that the room for individual player agency to affect the agent compositions is significantly higher, because not all those players at the lower level can play each agent at a competent level like the expectation is in tier 1 competition. But why does that matter? Grand finals of VCT EMEA, Team Liquid versus Fnatic. This is Fnatic's map pick of Haven. Liquid brought out a new composition of their own, or at least new to what I've been able to see. I'm sure it's been played before, but as far as hitting tier 1 in a really big way, it's the first time that I've seen this, where they swap out the Sova for the Skye. They go on to win this map 13-6. So this was the third map in the best of 5 series. They were 1-1 at this point. They win this, get a lead, win Fracture, take the whole event, win the season 3-1. But why swap out Sova for Skye? What are the pros? What are the cons? Past few days, doing some research, a little Valorant study session, if you will, and I'm here to give you my thoughts. So, real quick, let's compare the kit of Skye versus Sova. They're actually very, very similar on paper. Sova has the dart for information, the drone for further information, has the shock darts for damage and extended defense of a site slash a spike, and has the ultimate for, I guess, information. Not really. It's mostly just for the damage, and same with the shock darts, extended defense of a site or a spike. Skye, on the other hand, her heal, it's useful, but that's not the main reason why you pick her necessarily. She has the Wolf, which can get some information, but also disrupts. She has her flashes, which get some information, but also disrupt with the flash. And then her own ultimate is better for information gathering than Sova's, but also if those squids do tag an enemy, it will continue to disrupt them further. And just a quick comparison of their information gathering tools. Sova's dart tags them with their very specific location unless it's destroyed, assuming they're within line of sight of the dart and within range, of course. And then the drone sees everything in front of it and has its own little dart to continue to tag and give information on an agent further. Skye's abilities are a little more limited. She does have more tools because she has 2 birds compared to Sova's singular dart. Well, one, the bird doesn't go nearly as far as the dart does, and its information is strictly binary. Was there someone that got flashed, or was there one or more individuals that got flashed, yes or no? It doesn't actually change the information, as far as I know, based on how many people got flashed. And then the Wolf, while it technically moves physically further than the drone, its range is limited, and so it won't be seeing as far as the drone will, nor will it have its own little tag for further information after the ability is over. However, that's made up with the fact that if you get physically tagged by the Wolf, you are disrupted, and then of course you're flashed by the bird, you are flashed. So pretty straightforward. Sova has more detailed information, and I think more importantly, better range on all the tools, whether it's damage or information. But Skye's information gathering tools are more versatile in that you can use it for an aggressive push, whether it's the flash or a disruption from the wolf. It also allows you to get some information and make a read on your opponent. But Skye's tools are, despite being less ranged, give you opportunities to follow up on with the disruption that the flash and the wolf provide. So it really just comes down to, do you want to be a little more aggressive with your play or a little more defensive reactionary with your play? While studying these two agents on this map, I did look at two separate matches. Obviously for Skye, I looked at Liquid versus Fnatic. For Sova's case, the match that I looked at the most was actually Vitality versus Footballists in this same playoff. And really, when you compare the two, on the defensive side, the playstyle is essentially the same. Both these agents will be holding Banana with optional support from other teammates in tunnels, or sometimes they're in tunnels and the teammates in Banana, but generally Sova is going to Dart lobby and Skye is going to Bird lobby. And whether they follow up with a further drone or a further wolf through lobby or tunnels is depending on what information they find or what information is fed to them from elsewhere on the map. But the opening round is essentially the same every single time. Once they throw that utility out, try and get some information at what's happening at lobby, which is a very key part to control in Haven, Sova and Skye will routinely fall back into A link and position themselves to either retake the A site or rotate through link into B. So the attacking side is where you see more differences show up. Admittedly, though, it's not quite as different as I expected going into this study, but at the very least, as far as how Soulcast on Liquid was using Skye, routinely the start of the attacking round is you'd start in Garden, use the bird out in Banana, potentially wolf tunnels. Sometimes there'll be an Omen smoke there as well, and then using the second bird right off the bat up through window at mid for B ramp information. And if Liquid did decide to play elsewhere off the map rather than either A or B, to go to C, it would always be through a garage take. Either a wolf was saved from the opening, or even if both birds were used, the 40-second cooldown would be up by then after they slow the tempo down, and through the latter half of the round, they have another bird up to then flash into garage and sort of take the C side from there. This is all based off what reads they're going to get, mid-round calls based off of information, what utility has or has not been used by them or their opponents. So there's not a one-size-fits-all for any of this, but the general trend is start A, maybe go to B, if need be, go to C, but you're going to need either a wolf saved or a flash refreshed for that. Sova, on the other hand, while routinely using starting utility at A, has more options to take an initial push of C. Actually has an option to allow the team to rush C through long. Dart the back of the site from long, push on up, the jet dashes into the site as jets are wont to do. Bob's your uncle. The one thing that Sova doesn't do as successfully as Skye is a very aggressive, beat by beat, leapfrogging push from one section to the next, to the next, to the next. Sova naturally gets a lot of really good information, especially ranged information. Not only can, again, the dart go extended distance, the information that the dart tagging gets is a very wide range. But you need to be able to use that information in an intelligent way to make a play off of it, reading your opponents. Whereas a team with Skye on their team has more options to just have their blinders on and take each individual section of the map beat by beat. And that does allow the Skye team to go faster, but Sova has more opportunities to perhaps control the opponent. So the advantage that Sova has is actually in the post plant. More so than even a retake when they're on the defensive side. In the post plant, the shock darts, being able to send those over on the spike, assuming the spike is planted in the correct spot for this and communicated where it's planted, Sova doesn't even need to be in line of sight of the spike in order to defend it with double shock as well as the Hunter's Fury ultimate. This alone is something that Skye can't even get close to replicate. And that's why Liquid with Skye routinely went A or B, didn't go to C nearly as often, and if they did, they wanted to make sure that they took control of Garage and then through B-Link, because control of long C wasn't nearly as valuable to them without the tools from Sova. But what's the point of all this data, essentially, that we've gathered up here today? I think this Skye pick was a really, really nice curveball to throw into Fnatic. You can tell that it took Fnatic a couple of rounds to really figure out how they can react and play around the avenues that a Skye over Sova allowed Liquid to play through. Especially, again, on a map that the agent composition is so set in stone, the expectations in the mid-round calls are also so set in stone. It gives more, it arguably give more impact to the opposing team's in-game leader, and or just the shot calling in general, to mix it up there versus a map that has routinely mixed up agent compositions where teams are more used to having to adjust their expectations based off of the opponent's picks. That being said, I don't think Skye has a clear advantage over Sova, despite this 13-6 victory looking very, very strong for the agent. I think that Sova's ability to maintain more extended control, and then again the ranged defense of the spike as well, being absolutely crucial. I think Sova is still the superior agent pick on this map. But as far as it, like I said, being a bit of a curveball to Fnatic, especially because this wasn't even Liquid's pick, this was Fnatic's pick. So if any team is able to get these small adjustments in their playbook to sort of at least even the grounds, especially when it's not even your map pick, where the expectation is that you're not going to be as strong on it compared to maps that you actively pick into, things like this are really, really good to have. But at the end of the day, Sova is still the superior agent pick, and that is represented again by the amount of times that this agent composition gets picked. Haven is way too old and established of a map for some new meta to suddenly spring out of nowhere outside of patches, nerfs, buffs, and agent inclusions to mix things up. Well, that's the Haven agent composition study session over. Thanks you all for watching. Thanks everyone for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.